Hello and welcome back to Effortless Sports Podcast. I'm Dylan and I'm joined again by Jonathan. Week 6, pretty crazy. We had some really solid games. We had yet another coach that was fired. This one
Two.
really shook me a little bit. Oh, we had two. Yeah, sorry.
Mhm.
I keep thinking of the big one and I keep forgetting.
And honestly, like it's weird because like the one that wasn't shocking at all, the opening is actually more interesting than the one we were shocked by.
So take me through first your initial reactions. Take me through actually what were your reactions to the little firing in the sense that it didn't break the headlines as much.
Carl Durrell. I mean, like this is one we kind of saw coming. Like Colorado is the worst Power Five team I've ever seen, and that includes like all these Kansas and like Rutgers teams throughout the years. Like they're just miserable. I mean, they got their doors beat off by like a Arizona team that was by far the worst Power Five team last year. So this one isn't very surprising at all, and I think there was a couple intriguing candidates for it. I've heard one that I think the guy's done a good job, but he hasn't made uh, a real name for himself, and that's Ryan Walters at Illinois, who's their defensive coordinator. He's a Colorado alum. He's been a bunch of different places. He was actually a defensive coordinator here at Mizzou and did a pretty good job at it. So I think he's an interesting one, but I'm not sure he's ready to be a college football head coach right now, especially
Yeah.
at a Power Five school.
Do you know who's the opposite? Who has a ton of experience? Okay, coached at Colorado, I believe, at one point. Currently not a head coach anywhere. Rick Neuheisel, the boy, going back to Colorado. Huh? What would you say? This is like it just came to my mind as we were talking about this. But is that the hottest take around possible coaches that you've ever heard?
Yeah, I mean, pretty easily. Like,
I thought it was
I
so
mean,
funny. Just for context, I used to listen a lot to Rick Neuheisel and his show on Sirius XM on the way to like school every day.
okay.
He had a college football show, but he's also kind of like a meme within the Michigan community because he has like the craziest Harbaugh takes. Um, but yeah, no, Rick, Colorado is going to get. Actually, I do think that's like the job's not bad in terms of
I
what
don't think it's itself is bad. It's a bad recruiting base though. But like in Colorado, like you should have some pretty decent NIL opportunities to pitch to kids.
well,
So
also like off the football field, it's a very like enticing offer, at least for a coach.
yeah,
Like
no, good
you
place to live,
can
nice area.
exactly. And
So
like they've had success in the Pac-12. Like let's not forget that like pretty recently they were a team that was winning 8 games. Like
they were in the Pac-12 title game like 5 years
yeah,
ago, 6 years ago.
yeah.
So
Was that the Philip Lindsay years?
I think so. Yeah, it was kind of BS because like they won the Pac-12 South, but like and they got blown out by Washington in the title game, but they won the Pac-12 South and like I want to say like they played USC really early in the
Yeah.
year, like before Darnold was in there, and because of because of the fact that they played USC so early, like they were just they won the division head to head.
Yeah. And then let's talk about the real news. And again, I said earlier, but like this really shook me a little bit just to what the state of college football is. Paul Christ, head coach, Wisconsin, fired. Jim Leonard, the defensive coordinator, is gonna be taking over. First of all, I just want to hear your initial reactions to this because to me, like ever since I've been a real Big Ten football fan, I've always known Paul Christ teams as being um, just teams you never wanted to play. He led Wisconsin to a bunch of 10-win seasons. They, in my opinion,
6-1
overexceeded,
in bowls.
won bowls. Yeah, they were to me one of the teams that really overexceeded expectations in the like in terms of how do you beat the recruiting rankings idea and the fact that they weren't the best team recruiting. And honestly, I heard from other sources that they are one of the worst teams in the Big Ten in terms of recruiting, but in terms of like resources. But he won games and like, they dominated the Big Ten West for a while. And to see and like to see a base kind of lose faith in a coach that early, and also like I get it if he's going to retire anyways at the end of the year, but let him finish coaching. I don't get the idea of like tarnishing someone's legacy like that when they've done so much for your school and firing him after the first few games of the season.
I think there were a couple reasons for this. One, and I think this was probably the main one, is Jim Leonard's name had kind of been floating out there as a potential head coach for the last couple years now.
But they're not
And
going to hire him mid-season. Why do you have to fire a coach in the middle of your season?
I don't disagree, but I think they wanted to ensure that the plan was kind of already in place and he wasn't going anywhere. And like if they fired Chris, if they told him, hey, Chris is retiring at the end of the year and you're getting this job, like I don't think that changes anything. But I think they probably wanted to ensure that. And then secondly, and maybe more importantly, Wisconsin had kind of lost its identity like the last couple weeks. Like you cannot lose, first of all, to Washington State at home, a non-conference game, a team from the Pacific Northwest coming to Madison in week 2 and beating you is so uncharacteristic for Wisconsin. And then the Illinois game was maybe the worst Wisconsin performance in the last 7 years. Like I cannot remember a
Oh,
Wisconsin game in my lifetime that I was watching and I was just like, Wisconsin looks like completely overmatched against a team not named like Ohio State or Michigan. Like,
okay, and I get that sentiment, but we have to remember, like, we have to think about the framework we're using to look at these teams. Wisconsin is not supposed to be a team that wins 9 or 10 games each year. They're supposed they like they're. I'm trying to think of a comparison for them that I could use from other schools, but they're such an interesting case because they've exceeded expectations so much in recent years that people think that when they play like how they should, that all of a sudden there's some great problem. It's okay for a school like Wisconsin to have a year like this year, or even 2 years like this year, if it means that a few years ago or a few years in the future they're going to the Big Ten championship game. They don't rebuild. Okay, so I get it. The loss to Illinois is bad, but Illinois is a really good team, and Wisconsin's not going to win 8 games every year. It's hard to win games in the Big Ten. And so
but
I think what the problem is people have been so caught up with the fact that Chris is in such an amazing job at the school and set these expectations so high that when he finally fails one year to meet those expectations, it's chopping block right away.
so do you think that because like obviously Wisconsin has a new athletic director? Do you think that this new athletic director maybe wants to be something more than what Wisconsin's been the last couple of years?
Listen,
Which
listen.
I listen, I
Every
don't think they can
every
do that.
athletic director wants their coach. They want their guy, especially for football, right? That's the thing attached to the athletic program. That's like the image that everyone sees of your athletic program. And so,
Mhm.
and I could be wrong. Like again, if you're an athletic director listening to this and you don't want to hire your own people, like please let us know on Twitter. But like athletic directors want to hire their own coaches, right? Now imagine if you were hired as like the CEO or a manager of some other business, yet everyone who worked for you was from the past managers. Okay. You would want to say, okay, like maybe they're doing a fine job, but like I want to bring my people that I know can do the job the best. And so whether they can or can't is a different story. But if you're in that role, you want to hire your own people.
But I don't feel like Jim Leonard is really like this new athletic director guy. Like he's been at Wisconsin for
So
a long
so
time.
that's my next question. Like, do you think he's the one that gets hired for this job?
Yeah, I do. Like I just think that this whole thing is about Wisconsin kind of losing its identity and like thinking that they can be more. Which, by the way, now that like there's going to be no Big Ten West and Big Ten East, like it definitely can't be. Like Wisconsin is what they are, and I think that Paul Chris got every single ounce out of that program that you can possibly get.
He did everything he needed to do right. He did everything. And to
Nobody's
me,
safe.
what?
Nobody's safe.
Nobody's safe, but like, what world are we living in?
Buyouts don't exist anymore. Like
People forget before Barry Alvarez at Wisconsin, they were the worst team in football.
mhm.
They were terrible. There was a culture change, and then you have Wisconsin football.
uh,
Okay, but this whole identity thing, who built the identity of modern Wisconsin football?
Christ.
So don't you owe him the benefit of the doubt to let him at least finish the season?
Probably.
That like, and that's what I don't get. And look, Jim Leonard, I really liked, and I have no doubt in my mind that someone was going to poach him sooner rather than later. But like, that's why you run the program the way you do. Like, it's a good thing when coaches leave, or especially assistants when they leave, because if that coach is really the right person for your program, they'll come back. So
Yeah.
like, I get it if they want to keep Leonard, but at the end of the day, when he was a DC, I kept thinking that he should have taken a bigger DC job earlier in his career, maybe a few years ago, and then come back to Wisconsin as head coach. Now you hire a guy as interim head coach who is a great defensive coordinator, but has no head coach experience. That's why you have these assistant coaches go to other schools, get other roles, and then they gain that experience and come back as head coach. But to me, I think it was mismanaged. I mean, I'm pretty passionate about the fact that I thought Paul Chryst was one of the best coaches in the Big Ten. I think he was done extremely dirty by the administration. Um, I'm honestly mad about this. I'm a little bit worked up. So
I have a question for you because this is actually I've listened to the Cover Three podcast all the time, and this was a question that they asked earlier. What do you think is a better job with Wisconsin or Nebraska?
Nebraska. And I'll say Nebraska because I think they're very similar. But you got to remember, Wisconsin also has the academic, um, like sort of restrictions on what players they accept. Nebraska, even though Nebraska has been bad, they still recruited honestly at a higher level than Wisconsin. Even when Nebraska was winning 4 games a year, and or even, yeah, Nebraska winning 4 games a year, and Wisconsin was going to the Big Ten championship. Um,
Yeah,
Plus Nebraska's got that name brand. Like if we're gonna ask,
resources.
like who after all these coaches are fired, right? Nebraska and Wisconsin loses their head coach. Who do I think's gonna bounce back quicker? I'm gonna say Nebraska. And to me, that's like mostly because of I think what Paul Chryst was able to do, and him being gone is gonna hurt that team a lot more than people think. And I think it has to do with the fact that Nebraska is going to, I mean, they got to get one hire, right? Like they've got to hire someone competent. And
Yeah,
I honestly think that
Leipold.
Leipold, maybe, I mean, I talked about this with you earlier, so I'd like to mention it, but Leipold was a former Wisconsin Whitewaters coach at the D3 level, was like the GOAT of Division III football for
Yeah,
a while.
yeah. I mean,
So,
they were untouchable.
I mean, I would expect Wisconsin to reach out at least. Nebraska, I think for sure will reach out, but I would
Do
expect Wisconsin to reach
you
out.
think that they're going to talk to other people besides Jim Leonard? Because I'm not so
Dude,
sure that.
dude, you think these guys don't talk to other people behind their backs? You think before they fired Paul Chryst, like the winningest coach in their football team's history, they didn't talk to any of the other possible candidates?
A couple things. When I say talk to these people, I mean like, hey, we're gonna have these guys in for an interview, and people are gonna find out about it. Like,
Dude, at
I
this
don't mean like
stage,
just like call people behind their back. Like, for all we know, Wisconsin called Urban Meyer. Like,
at this stage in the college football coaching cycle, we're at the point where I don't even think interviews matter. These guys know, these guys are so well connected, like they know who's who. I guarantee you, as soon as Lance Leipold saw Paul Chryst firing on his phone, he got the ESPN alert. Immediately after, you got ring, ring, ring. I guess who is this? Who is this? It's Wisconsin. Oh, who's his next call? Line two. Oh, it's Nebraska telling, oh, dude, don't worry about Wisconsin. We'll give you this, this, and
we
this.
got you here.
It's yeah,
Are we also here's another question.
yeah.
Sorry, you froze. Here's another question for you. Are we gonna be having the same conversation about another Big Ten West school next week?
Um,
You know which one I'm talking about,
I
right?
do. I don't think so. I don't think
I
so.
don't think so either. I think it could be an offensive coordinator, but
No, but at that point, both of them have to go.
I feel like because they're related, you have to fire both.
Yeah,
We're talking
for
about
those,
Iowa. We're talking about Iowa
yeah,
for people
for
that
those who
haven't
haven't
figured it out
followed,
yet.
it's Iowa and Coach Ferentz and his son, OC. I would say prodigal son, even though he's the opposite of a prodigy. Brian Ferentz, who's got the worst offense in football. I think at the end of the year, we'll see a mutual agreement to part ways.
Yeah,
So
I think
take
that's
it.
kind of like what it is. Because like, I mean, if they go and just absolutely like lay an egg at Illinois in a game that they're underdogs, by the way. Like, imagine telling someone at the start of the season that Illinois was going to be favored against Iowa. So, like that is not a great look for the program. I think overall.
Yeah, I mean, like again, you got to remember that. I mean, Coach Ferenz has been coaching there like forever, so it is like a
And
little bit of
like
a touchy
they're just
subject.
like I don't understand why they're just so like why won't they make a change at quarterback? There is no way that Alex Padilla could be worse than Spencer Petras. There's no way.
At this
I
point,
mean,
I'm like
you
alarmed.
watched that entire Michigan Iowa game. That throw to Laporta on 4th and 2, gotta have it to stay in the game was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. How do you throw it short of the sticks to an All American tight end on 4th and 2?
Listen, Spencer Petras is not a good quarterback, but like, what does that tell you about Alex Padilla? Like, is this
That's
can
what
this dude
that's what I'm
throw?
trying to
Can,
say.
can he
Like
throw? Like, no, I'm actually alarmed. Like, who is like this Alex kid? And I think I have seen him a few times because he did come into the game a little bit.
we were
I
at a
mean,
game he came in, Big Ten championship.
yep, he was at the Big Ten championship. I mean, he like I didn't get much from that game, but
No, I mean you
like,
were focused. Your team was about to be in the playoff,
yeah.
so
But like, is this dude like? Is there something like off with him? Like, what's the reason why he can't go in the game?
like is he like injured? Does he like have a throwing arm? Like what's the deal
No,
here?
it's like the only
There is
explanation
no
is like
way that he can be worse than Petras. Like absolutely no way.
the only explanation is that like he's actually a righty, but he throws lefty during games. And honestly, I would still take Padilla. I would take lefty weak arm Padilla over Spencer Petras. So I think you froze a little bit, so I'm just going to continue. Um, let's get into some of some of the games of the past week. Again, we're still waiting on Jonathan to get back in here. Are you still back in, Jonathan? Okay, he's like in and out, but um, yeah, let's look at some of the games from this past weekend. So we had a bunch of interesting games that happened um before Saturday day. We had a really solid Friday night matchup. UCLA came in, big home game for them. I was talking to Jack the other day, kind of giving him some slack for UCLA's inability to fill up their stadium, but he said that there was about 80% capacity. So that was it was pretty good to hear for the UCLA standpoint. And they hosted number 15 Washington, ended up beating them. See, Jonathan, you back here?
Yeah, sorry, just my Wi-Fi went out.
Yeah, you were like in and out. It was in the middle of my Alex Padilla joke.
Yeah,
So
I kind of heard part of it.
okay, I could repeat it a little bit because I don't want to hear your reaction. So I was basically saying that Alex Padilla, like the only explanation is that he's actually a righty, but he's throwing lefty. But I was gonna say at that point, I would even take weak arm throwing Padilla over Spencer Petras.
I mean, as long as he can throw the ball past the first down marker and 4th and 2, gotta have it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and then I was just going through some of the games, focusing on the Friday night matchup between UCLA and Washington, where like I was saying how to turn that game on and see the Rose Bowl filled up 80% capacity did bring a smile to my face. Good for that school. Jack was there. He was really excited about the environment.
yeah, They got another tough one this week.
Yeah, but they beat a good Washington team. They put up 40 points. Zach Charbonnet was really good. DTR was DTR.
Amazing.
He had like his like Heisman DTR games. Like we're not sure when we're gonna see this again, but
We
um,
won't. We won't.
and then I think what we want to do is I just want to go through the rankings, or at least our rankings, because I think we always touch upon the games of the week anyways in our rankings. So let's like spend more time and go into that.
You're let me make sure I have this right. Because I don't want to say anything false. Oh no, so close. Your Maryland boys just narrowly missed the cut this week. Although I think I ranked them. I
Nice.
did rank them. I have them at 24.
So it's the AP poll. Ugh. Okay, so top five, it did change a lot, and it was due to one. Actually, it was due to two games. So I've got Ohio State number one. Uh, they beat Rutgers by a lot. They faked a punt up 30, which was interesting. Shiano man was very upset about that.
Yeah,
And then I have Alabama at two. Need to note that that game got a little bit closer once Bryce Young went out for an injury. We're not sure if he's going to start next weekend against Texas A&M.
Alabama like essentially blew them out twice. Like they
Yeah,
blew them out, then Arkansas came back, and then it was a blowout again.
yeah, they were really good. I'm a big fan of Jalen Milroe,
And
the
they did
backup
and they did
quarterback.
that completing like 11 passes, by the way.
Yeah, I've got Georgia at three. Now they moved down from one to three, which is to me a really big deal. Second week in a row they struggled. They almost lost to your Missouri Tigers.
Dude.
They were losing the entire game.
But like it never felt like Mizzou was gonna win. Like they outplayed us
Dude,
like
they're
pretty
up
much.
19-3.
Dude, they outgained us by like 150 yards. We were gifted two turnovers in the first quarter, one of which was just like a mishandled snap. And like the other one was like Milton broke a run and like we punched it out from behind. Like we were gifted field position. We had a false start on the 1 yard line. Like if that doesn't happen, we punch it in and we might have a different talking point. But I like it never felt like we were winning that game. Georgia didn't punt after the first quarter. So, and we're like, imagine here's what me and my friend talked about this week. Imagine I told you before the game that Mizzou was going to win, right? You would have told me like, oh, Georgia played really bad, right?
Yeah.
Georgia played worse than our preconceived notion of them losing the game.
Yeah. Well, like one thing to note is I remember after last week and after they let up 20 points to Kent State, you moved them down to the rankings. I said, not so fast. I'm using like the whole body of work. I need to see how they respond. And guess what? They responded poorly. So I moved them down.
There were some
Finally.
major red flags in that Kent State game.
Yeah, like I was
And I think we
really alarmed at the lack of like I don't want to say explosiveness because that's a buzzword, but like they don't seem to have that like power that Alabama or Ohio State has.
yeah.
Like
No,
they can't turn a game over in like one quarter.
yeah, I got you.
So I got Michigan at four. Went in, beat Iowa. The score is a lot closer than what the game actually was. There's some question marks still from a defensive standpoint, but like I thought they played like the way they needed to play to win. They didn't turn the ball over. They played field position. It was like classic Harbaugh win, which like you'll take any day of the
And
week.
like that's fine when you're playing Iowa, who's really good. By the way, Blake Corum's just like complete like dismantle of Jack Campbell on that play in that one gap was insane.
I mean, like I feel like he's gonna continue putting up these numbers in terms of I don't know, like maybe like
Is he on pace to like break Big Ten records? He has to be.
dude, he has like 10 touchdowns so far.
Their passing game just doesn't look crisp right now, which I think needs to be fixed if they want a shot at the division.
JJ missed another deep ball. And I
Yeah,
think he'll start hitting them. But
I do too. I think it's more about reps. Like
and
it,
again, like the run game is going to make it easier to pass. And their offensive line dominated Iowa. Like that was one of the few years where I really thought that there was a huge difference in between the line play of Michigan and Iowa,
Yeah. No,
which
there
was
is
very
easily.
interesting.
Yeah, I watched pretty much that entire game. Like, don't let that final score deceive you. Like, Iowa had like I want to say like it had to have been like at least 50% of their yards in the fourth quarter
Yeah, but that one
when
like
the game was when the game was
touchdown.
over. So
And then Toronto, my top five, we got Clemson, who did their job and beat the frauds NC State. So,
yeah, we learned absolutely nothing from that game.
dude, I love how NC State was a top 10 team during that matchup, and neither of us even had them in our top 25.
No, I mean I think I may have had him at 24, but like I needed to put somebody there, and I didn't like I should have put Maryland honestly. Like,
Dude, NC State's 14th in the AP poll. Like, I
what
don't I don't know what's going on, man. Like
if
this team
if
is not
Florida
good.
State's if Florida State's healthy this week, they're gonna beat them on the road. I don't know how healthy Florida State is right now though.
Florida State was going to make it in my rankings.
They missed two. They were missing out two defensive tackles, and Jared Verse was kind of limited.
Dude, I don't even think they would have stopped that Wake offense. Which, by the way, that Wake Forest offense, I want to see them in a bowl
Dude,
game against like
Wake
an SEC
Forest
team.
Wake Forest is good.
Dude, that offense is so hard to stop. Their RPO, their mesh point is like 4 seconds.
Wake Forest may like go 11-1, and it'll be like the least remembered 11-1 season ever.
No, they're actually one of the most interesting teams I've ever watched.
It's
The
it's
way they play football is it shouldn't be fair.
like how do you like call a legal man downfield against them? Like they hold the
Why
ball,
don't they? They should. I counted like 6 times where they have an illegal man downfield and they never
dude. They,
call it.
they hold the ball there for so long; it's impossible to make that call.
It's bad. It's so bad. Like
And like,
I don't know if I dislike the offense or like think it's bad for the sport, but I like watching it. So
yeah, I mean, like it's like if Ole Miss was like on drugs, like pretty much for those of you that haven't watched Wake Forest
no,
yet.
no, no. You know what it's like? It's like if it was like that Matt Corral offense, but if like Matt Corral was like really slow and
Mm-hmm.
like a little bit like senile, where like he would have to like wait an extra few seconds to like make his decision. That's what the Wake Forest offense is.
And like their wide receivers are like so good in 50-50 ball situations that like they can just hold the ball there and like the safeties can't go anywhere. Like they're just like that offense. What it does, it essentially like takes the safe any deep safety out of the play.
Also, their offensive line is like very, very, very good and
Yeah,
smart and
and
fast.
I mean you have to be. You're not fucking running this offense with a three step drop or 2 seconds in the pocket, whatever it is. Like
Yeah, no, they're good. We can talk about them a little bit more because I assume they're going to be in our rankings. But all right, what do you have? 1 through 5.
yeah, Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Michigan 4, Clemson 5. I almost moved Clemson up to 4, but I was pretty impressed how Michigan played 2, so I didn't really feel it was fair. I did have Ohio State jump Georgia though. I think I wouldn't say those are clearly the two best teams because I feel like Georgia's probably on equal footing with both of them, but I feel like those first three those could be interchangeable all year.
Yep, I agree. Let's go to 6. USC, 7. Utah. These haven't changed. They haven't lost. Like nothing else I can say. Tennessee at 8. Um, very excited when they play Alabama in a few weeks, especially if Bryce Young is not 100%. I mean, they're a good team. Josh Heupel's got that offense. Not like they haven't. I haven't felt like they've been tested a lot in terms of like quality defenses, but I mean, there's nowhere for me to say that they shouldn't be ranked as highly as they do. But
Yeah, I agree. I do think they're going to lose this week. It's a total trap game against LSU on the road.
the big LSU guy, of course, man.
I
I
do.
don't know. I think Tennessee's winning. I think Tennessee wins this game against LSU.
It's going to be a good game, but dude, LSU was freaking terrible this past week.
What is going on? Like Auburn doesn't even have a real football team. What is happening?
They were bad. Jane Daniels was like 8 of 20 for 80 yards. It was not good.
It's the Brian Kelly experiment. Okay. We got at 9. I got Oregon again. Like not much data there. They've
They've
looked
looked real. They've looked the part the last couple of
they've
weeks.
looked good. They've looked good. Penn State at 10. They very much struggled with Northwestern. They very much didn't look like a top 10 team. But like honestly, numbers 8 through the rest don't look like top 10 teams. So
Full resume on that one. I kind of chalked that one up of like I think Clifford was hurt and like they played in the rain, so like
they
I'll,
weren't good. They
I
were
moved them.
not
I
good.
moved them. I think I may have moved them up a spot just because like so many teams lost. Like I don't know. Like okay, so
No, I unfortunately had to watch this game. And let
what
me
do you mean
tell
you
you,
had to watch this game,
well, I was watching it because, like, I'm the Big Ten guy. I need to watch the Big Ten games,
dude? It was the two
and
thirty
that was
slate.
it was
There were like
terrible.
15 other games on that you could have chosen.
It was I was watching it. Okay, that was on my main TV. I had the other game. What was it? It's like the 3:30 window. I had the other one on my laptop. Um, no, it was garbage. Like Penn State was like they looked like the Penn State we've seen in other games where they struggled this year. Like they have major flaws. Like I don't think their run game, even though they put up really good numbers against bad defenses, like I don't think their run game is really that impressive. Like
By by the way, before the season, this was a game I picked them to lose. I'm like it's right before their bye. Penn State usually has one of these games where they just look awful. It's just like so happens to be that Northwestern is like the worst team in the conference, and no matter how bad Penn State played, they could not have lost that game.
but like it wasn't just that they played a poor game. It was that I was seeing the same mistakes they were making against like Purdue, like in week one. So like how
Yep.
much growth does that show? Like
Go James's teams will do that once in a while.
but like I wasn't like that impressed with how they played. Like in a muddy game, you have one of the best run games in the country. Like I, they didn't show it. I don't know. Like I
Was
guess
was
Northwestern's
it
D line
was it game plan or execution?
it was both.
Well, the first one doesn't surprise me. The
It
second
was
one,
both.
the second one actually also doesn't surprise me.
If
So
I see this guy James Franklin call another outside zone on 3rd and 6, I'm gonna have his head. Like what do you like? It's the worst play. They never run it like well. They never execute it.
just wait till next week when Harson loses his job and you hear James Franklin's name in the Auburn coaching search.
This dude each week instead of preparing for the team, he's like sending his agent out to like find the new like way to get a raise.
You forget it also takes him an hour to tweet like the name of his opponent like 3 times.
Dude, I saw it was like a Big Ten Network clip. It was like all these coaches trying to describe what an NFT was. And this is kind of irrelevant, but I need to talk about it because it's really funny. And then Franklin, like, so you have like Ryan Day, he's like NFT, like, oh, it's like a thing for the players, right? And then like Harbaugh's got like, no clue, like Forensic
Of
got
course
no
he doesn't.
clue. Um, and the two funniest ones is James Franklin. He like knows like the ins and outs of NFT. Like everyone on Twitter is like, this dude's like an NFT trader. Like he like trades crypto. And then you have Mel Tucker.
He looks like a guy that would trade crypto.
And then you have Mel Tucker go to the camera. He's like, I don't know what that is. Like, he's like, don't ask me about that. Don't ask me about that. It was like someone said it was like he's like being questioned by the FBI. It's like NFTs. It's like, don't ask me about that.
Mel Tucker's pleading the fifth on questions about NFTs.
It was like someone's like, why does he have to be so defensive?
He should start pleading the fifth about questions about his football team too.
And you want to make this like more funny? Mel Tucker has an NFT. It's called NF Tuck. You can buy this. It's a real thing. You go on the MSU website. You can buy an NF Tuck. And this dude didn't even know what an NFT was.
I mean, like he doesn't make that. Like he's not the one that comes up with those ideas.
His face is on it.
He doesn't. I mean, he doesn't come up with any ideas on the football field either. But
Listen. How many NFTs does it take to win a football game? Like, if I buy like a million NF Tucks, can they like get better players?
um, no, because they're gonna push out their freshmen because they attack the football so hard.
NF Tuck. Oh yeah. Sorry, that was really like off topic, but I thought
No,
that
that
was
was
so
funny. I
funny.
didn't see that.
I'll send you the clip after this, but
All right.
anyways,
My next batch of
go
teams.
for it. Yeah.
Utah is 6. They're without a doubt better than USC right now. They, by the way, are getting a lot of love in the analytical rankings because of a blowout win against Oregon State, who USC struggled with, by the way. So 7 USC, 8 Tennessee, 9 Penn State, 10 Oregon. So we're very similar there.
Yep. I think the differences come
I don't
in.
know if I don't know if you got to see any of the Oregon Stanford game, but man, they look good.
Dude, Oregon's good. And honestly, I thought Stanford's like not like that terrible. They didn't play very well, but like
And like, here's the thing, like, and like, I don't think the gap isn't that big, but like, you're first of all, you're not in the SEC and you're in the Pac-12, so like, Oregon can win these games on the road if Bo Nix plays bad because one, their players are better. And two, these road teams that they're going to, they aren't as good as the teams that they play in the SEC that Auburn would see in the SEC.
yeah, and like I mean Oregon's they have talent and like they're always gonna win these Pac-12 games against inferior opponents. They're like
If
the I mean like the 2015 through 2018 Harbaugh.
yeah, if Oregon played Georgia again next week, what do you think the final score would be?
55-10.
You think it would be very similar?
Yeah.
I don't. I think that was peak Georgia and below what
Listen,
Oregon
dude,
could ever dream about.
Georgia gets up for these games. Like I think the Mizzou game was like I don't know what you attribute it to, but like it's a road game. Okay.
Dude, we were rocking. That stadium was
Dude, it was crazy. Okay.
We put Gary Pinkel's name on our wall before the game. I mean, it was nuts.
And Georgia in a big game will be Georgia. Like I think you can catch Georgia on off games, and that's why they're not Alabama. But like, no, dude, if Georgia, we've seen what Georgia does to Oregon. Like, there's no world we say, wow, Oregon's really going to keep this one close, aren't they? No, dude, Georgia was better than them in all facets of the game.
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, you want to go your next
Yeah,
team?
so I got Oklahoma State 11. They beat my beloved Baylor Bears. Very upsetting for me, but they played well, so I moved them up a little bit. By the way, Spencer Sanders is just such an enigma in college football. He's one of those guys that have been there for so long, but I mean, he's like the college quarterback at this point. And then we have Wake Forest at 12 with that Mickey Mouse RPO offense that we talked about already.
It's not Mickey Mouse.
Dude, it's so Mickey Mouse. Like,
It is kind of Mickey Mouse.
Listen, what would Saban say before he added it to his offense? What would Saban say?
What did he say over the summer that like people like found ways to cheat or like
Yeah, and found ways to cheat. He would call it cheating. But you know what? He always says that and he always adds it to his team. So like next season we're gonna see Alabama running these like RPOs that take like 10 seconds to develop.
By the way, if Bryce doesn't play against the A&M this weekend, I have a feeling it's going to be way closer than people think.
I disagree.
A&M has players that can contain Milrow.
Alabama wins by 3 scores.
If Bryce plays, I agree.
If Bryce plays, Alabama wins by 4 scores.
If Bryce plays, Alabama may win by 35.
Listen, if Bryce Young plays, A&M scores less than 7 points. If Bryce Young doesn't play, A&M scores 7 or less points. Like not scoring more than a touchdown.
Is this A&M team any better than Auburn last year?
No.
I think I agree.
Dude, like A&M's terrible.
Dude, they've now been outplayed in 4 of their 5 games this year, and they have Bama on the road this week.
They're awful. They're not good.
What are they 3-2? Are they in tuck territory? And by tuck territory, I mean like missing a bowl.
They are. Listen, I said it earlier in the pod, maybe week 1. I said no matter what, it'll always end up the same for Jimbo and A&M. 8-4. No matter how, like, doesn't matter how they get there, but it will get there. 8-4.
Dude, this team's not finishing 8-4. Are you kidding me?
Listen, it doesn't. Like good seasons, 8-4. Bad seasons, 8-4. Middle of the pack seasons, 8-4.
You think this team's finishing 8-4?
I mean, like I wouldn't be surprised if they go 8-4.
their next couple games. Well, actually, I'll read you the rest of their schedule. At Alabama, they're going to be 3-3.
Okay.
At South Carolina, they could be
They're
4-3.
gonna win that game. Come on.
Ole Miss at home, that's such a game they win.
They win that. They win that game.
5-3. Home against Florida, 6-3. At Auburn, 7-3 in a really ugly one, and then they got UMass, and they'll lose to LSU, 8-4.
Dude, 8-4. 8-4. It all happens. It's always 8-4. It's the curse of 8-4. The Jimbo curse.
Oh my god.
It happens all the same. Always 8-4. Good season, 8-4. Bad season, 8-4. Mediocre season, 8-4. It's going to be 8-4. That's it.
All right.
That's definitely gonna go in the title of this pod too. The 8-4 Jimbo.
So sorry, Wake Forest, you had at 12.
TCU, huge win over Oklahoma, killed them. Max Duggan is that guy. He's him.
Yeah.
Big matchup against Kansas this week. Game day. It's gonna be electric.
2-touchdown game.
Maybe.
People, you can talk all you want about this being a hangover game for TCU after the Oklahoma game. It's a hangover game for Kansas too, because
listen. Can you wait to slander Kansas until I get to them in my rankings?
Sure, I'll hold off.
You like wake up on Twitter and it says Kansas hate. This is why is Kansas ranked? Why is
because
Kansas?
they're not good.
I stop that. Come on. We got Ole Miss at 14. Lane Train beat Kentucky on a really fraudulent play at the end of the game. I thought they played well though. I thought they were fine. And then we have Kansas State at 15. Who's just riding the Adrian Martinez train. So
Big 12 player of the week, Adrian Martinez.
heck yeah.
All right. Oh, you're not gonna like this. I have Texas at 11. If I had to bet who wins the Big 12 right now, I would still bet on Texas. They were in a bad spot against Texas Tech, and they outplayed them and were up by 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. If Quinn Ewers is healthy and doesn't get hurt, Texas may be 5-0. And they're going to beat Oklahoma this week. They're a 7-point favorite, by the way, against Oklahoma this week. They're going to beat them. All right.
I disagree.
Minnesota at 12. I'm going to chalk, like, the really bad game against Purdue. I'm going to chalk it up as an outlier, though. And Ibrahim didn't play. So, we'll see. If they continue to look this bad, we'll have some discussions. But for now, I'm keeping them at 12. TCU at 13. They look really good. Nothing else there. Ole Miss at 14. I still am very suspect on them, although their defense looks good. And then your Mickey Mouse Wake Forest team is at 15 for me.
Sorry, I just need to comment on some of your takes here. But yeah, so Minnesota.
You're about to
delete them 12.
I see you lurking. You're about to delete them off my rankings.
No, I'm just clicking to make sure I have the right thing. I don't know.
I get it. I get it, man. I get it. I Purdue spoils a lot of team seasons. I think this is the absolute worst that Minnesota will play this year.
But Minnesota turned the ball over so much, and there was picks that Purdue dropped.
Also, that game
had more picks.
That game should have been a tie game at halftime. Minnesota dropped a touchdown that ended up being an interception in the end zone.
I remember that. By the way, that game was one of the sloppier passing games I've seen.
Bonkers.
That was the
not a good way
experience too. That was the full.
I hate Purdue so much. They're up there with Kansas as teams I hate this year.
This dude can't get Kansas out of his mouth. He cannot do it.
Just wait.
Let's continue. I'm excited for this part, but UCLA 16. They're undefeated. Jack still has them ranked as his Pac-12 champion. Let's also remind you that during our Pac-12 preview, Jack said that he thinks that UCLA has a chance to go undefeated, to win out, and go to the college football playoff. So he's not here to protect himself right now, but I needed to say that.
If they can get through Utah, USC, and then one of those guys again, I will be very impressed.
Which, at the beginning of the season, it seemed really hard, but USC's been good. They have been world beaters.
Dude,
I still think they're going to lose a game in the Pac-12.
Dude, they only get up for the important games.
But you can still see USC losing a game in the Pac-12 play. regular.
USC will lose a game, and I think I picked them to lose to UCLA at the start of the year. So
So all I'm gonna say, man, like maybe
I mean USC I will bet USC loses twice. Like I think they're going to lose to Utah and UCLA.
and listen, man, when USC has to come into UCLA, go to the Rose Bowl at 74% capacity. It's gonna be wild,
It's
okay?
going to be rocking.
It's gonna be rocking. I got Baylor at 17. It's gonna take a lot for me to move them off my top 25. And I mean, like, they're gonna have to lose 4 games before I move them off my list.
Baylor. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, first that game was weird. They didn't outplay Oklahoma State, but they didn't really get outplayed either. Like Oklahoma State had like I want to say like less yards on offense. They had a safety, they had a kickoff return for a touchdown, and they were good in the red zone, and Baylor wasn't. So, like I don't think that was as big of a blowout as it seemed.
Yeah, I just like again, like Baylor to me is a program that like they're gonna win 9 games in my opinion, and like there's not gonna be a reason for you to ever move them out of my top 25. So, and while like they probably won't be a Big 12 contender, like I still think that they're due for a really solid season. So
Did you say Baylor was going to win 9 games?
yeah,
That means they go 6-1 the rest of the year, which would be really impressive.
I mean they played Okie State already,
Yeah, I mean they haven't played Texas,
bro.
nor have they played TCU, nor have they played Kansas State. I think that's all the good Big 12 teams.
I think they beat all of them, honestly.
Hmm, interesting.
I'm sticking to my guns. Listen, I picked Baylor as my Big 12 winner early in the year. So like I have to like I'm gonna stick with them.
Hey, LSU is my like ride or die squad. So
I've got Mississippi State at 18. Mike Leach just continues to beat teams and
they're
like
good.
they are good. Um, they're just such an interesting squad because like they'll sneak up on like the like mid tier SEC teams, but like I don't see them being a challenge for the big boys. I've got Washington at 19. I wanted to move them down a little bit further, but at this point in the rankings, I need to like value resume and just like how good they've looked. And so like they were down pretty big against UCLA. They fought back a little bit. It was a tough game. Like UCLA is a very good team.
Yeah.
So like I wasn't gonna punish them that much, but I got Texas at 20. Texas is still not back, folks. Which I should call the 20th ranking spot the Texas spot. So I feel like in the past few seasons they've always been hovering around 20. Like that's just where they belong.
Big 12 champs.
I can't shake off that Texas Tech loss.
Why? They were up 2 scores with a backup
Because
quarterback.
they lost to Texas Tech.
First of all, Texas Tech is not bad.
Okay, but dude, they're not bad, but they're not a team that you expect Texas to be losing.
Texas went in there with a backup quarterback. What was up 2 scores in the fourth quarter and lost. Like they outplayed them. Like,
but they lost. And
plus,
so
like
I'm gonna look at the loss.
Also,
they lost the game.
that is like Texas Tech's game. That's the last time they're gonna play Texas at home.
You are Texas. You don't make excuses for whose Super Bowl you are playing in or whatnot. Okay. If you're Texas, you have the best players in Texas. Texas Tech has your leftovers. You don't lose to the leftovers. No one goes to Thanksgiving and says, oh, wait, I don't want to eat the meal tonight. I want to like wait till the next week for all the leftovers. Like, no one does that. Okay. Texas Tech has the leftovers. You don't lose to those teams. Come on. Like, let's be realistic. Let's say what we need to say here. Like, we thought Texas was going to be something else this season. I didn't. I was always on Texas is not it. They tricked you. Okay. They've tricked you. The recruiting rankings, the NIL, Longhorn Network. They've tricked you. Okay. This isn't an SEC team. This isn't an SEC team. This is just a team with history.
They're going to beat everyone when Ewers comes back. He's coming back this week, I think.
They are a team with history. They are not an SEC team. That's the end of my statement.
They are much closer to an SEC team than Oklahoma is right now.
Neither of them are SEC teams.
Way closer. Texas
Neither of them are SEC
teams.
teams.
The SEC.
Neither of them are SEC teams. And by the way, I love that I had to call out the Longhorn Network because it's still the stupidest thing ever made.
All right. Let me go through my 16 to 20 because That was enough of that. Um, 16 LSU. I did move them down because they played really bad against Auburn. Still have a top 5 defense in the country. 17 Oklahoma State, 18 Kansas State, 19 Mississippi State, and 20 Washington.
I'm fine with it. I've actually like for the first time in this episode, I kind of agree with. I'm fine with those rankings.
That's good. I'm glad we can agree on something.
I'm okay with it.
There's some teams in here in the final part that we're not going to agree on.
This episode has been so argumentative, which is fun. This is a good episode.
That's fine. You know what? We got 8 weeks left of the regular season. We'll
exactly. I've got Maryland 21. This is the part where I'm going to say that I was right about Maryland all along. It's a really good team, and like I don't.
Okay, let's pump the brakes. I was right about Maryland all along. You don't have Minnesota ranked. Minnesota looked way better against Michigan State than Maryland did.
Listen, dude, I had Maryland ranked like let's see, 3 or 4 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago.
They played Michigan tough. They played Michigan tough. The Michigan State game, they should have won by 3 touchdowns. Like that score was way closer than what the game was.
Okay.
They have talent. Like if we're talking about recruiting rankings, right? Like they got talent.
They are very
got the quarterback.
They are very clearly the 4th best team in the Big Ten right now.
They're good.
5th. Minnesota's better than them.
Listen, Texas is closer to Maryland than they are to.
Don't say what you're about to say. Because whatever you're about to say is about to be wrong.
Texas is closer to Maryland than they are to Penn State.
Who's your number 2 team in the country?
I've got Alabama.
Texas went toe-to-toe with them like 3 weeks ago with the backup quarterback.
You don't listen. You don't win games at the end if you don't have the higher score. Let's teams win games in different ways.
The final scores are at time very overrated.
You lose to Texas Tech. Hold up. No, you're a big fan of like the analytics, right?
Yeah.
Can you pull up Texas Tech's analytics real quick? Let's see this team quality.
What do you want to see in terms of their analytics?
I'm just curious. I don't want to see any. Like I'm just really curious because maybe I have the wrong idea about Texas.
I bet they're pretty high. Like so, college football data is loading for me. This could take a little while because I'm on my hotspot right now. But like I'm still like willing to bet that like if I pull up the EPA charts, like with EPA on offense on the y-axis and EPA on defense on the y-axis and EPA on offense on the x-axis. I bet they're fairly close to the bottom right in those categories.
I'm just curious because like I could be wrong, and I'll admit that I'm wrong if Texas Tech is a strong football team.
Texas Tech is not a super like elite Big 12 team, but like they're going to win games in this conference. They're going to play everybody tough this year.
Like I'll rephrase my sentence. Like I'll admit that I'm wrong if like Texas Tech is really a good football team. Like elite football teams, like you're claiming Texas is, they shouldn't lose to good or fine football teams. They should be losing to the great football teams. Like they should be losing to teams that like they're okay.
They did lose to a great football team.
And they lost to a team that wasn't very good. Dude, we can't dance around the Texas Tech loss and act like it never happened just because they played Bama close.
Texas, my site isn't loading right now, but I'll look at it after the show.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Texas is closer to Maryland than they are to Penn State, which is funny because in years past, Maryland's beaten Texas in the non-conference. But
if Texas played Penn State on a neutral field tomorrow, Texas would be favored.
Okay, and they would probably lose.
They wouldn't lose.
Penn State's probably better than Texas Tech.
If yours is healthy and playing, Texas is beating Penn State on the neutral field. I'm pretty.
I need to see Franklin versus Sark. I need to see that.
You saw Franklin versus Pat Fitzgerald last week. What more do you need to see?
No, I don't need to see that. I do not need to see that again. Oh my god! All right, I'm gonna continue. There's gonna be more arguments as we get to
this 21 through 25 phase is gonna be a mess. We actually will agree on one team here.
We will. I've got Kentucky at 22. I got
who was your 21? Sorry,
Maryland.
Okay, 22 Kentucky.
23 Kansas. I got 24 Syracuse. I got 25 Illinois.
Only really disagree with one team there.
Actually. Yeah, I know. And like I'm ready for you to say your part, but go through your rankings first, and then we'll get to it.
So 21 is Florida State, which I know you disagree with. 22 UCLA. Maybe could be a little higher. They didn't play so well in the first 4 weeks. So taking that with a grain of salt. 23 Kentucky, not a very good football team, by the way. I feel like I'm almost ranking them out of like pity. Like they're not good. 24 Maryland, 25 Illinois. So let me pull up a tweet for you that this was something I tweeted Sunday at 4:45 actually to be approximate. Where is this? Here we go. All right. Team A, 5-0, 2 road wins, 1 against the Power 5 team, is 17th in points per game, 68th in opponent points per game. Got that? Take that all in.
Yeah, I saw this tweet, by the way. I'm doing my own research. So wait, real quick before we get to the punchline, can you tell me what year that team was? Because I know the team. What year was it again? Was that
Team B?
Team A.
Well,
or
Team A is this year.
Team B I meant.
Team B is 2019.
All right, hold up.
Team B, 5-0, 2 road wins, 1 against the Power 5 team. So same as Team A. 15th in points per game, 2 spots higher than Team A. And 64th in opponent's points per game, which was 4 spots higher than Team A. Team A is Kansas, who's currently ranked 19th. Team B is 2019 Minnesota, who finished 10-2, by the way, but through 5 games was not close to being ranked.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up, by the way.
People last week were saying this whole thing about how Kansas is only not ranked because they're Kansas. No, they're ranked because they are Kansas. They are not a good football team.
Let me find this. So wait, 20
there are 10 teams in the Big 12. Kansas is probably the 8th best team in the conference.
Wait a minute. Hold up. Okay, let's quickly go through this Minnesota 2019 daunting schedule that you were talking about. What was it? What was the stat?
No, they were bad at the start of the year, but so was Kansas. That's my whole argument. Like Minnesota didn't deserve to be ranked after 5 weeks that year.
Like, can we compare the teams that Minnesota team played versus the teams that Kansas played?
I can probably tell you 4 of the teams that Minnesota played.
Well, because I got the schedule right here. So
they opened with South Dakota State and won
exactly. Beat it by 7. Beat it by a touchdown. And that was the game where they had like that last play where like they tossed it up to what was his name? But like they tossed it and he like
it wasn't Bateman, was it?
No, it wasn't. But like they needed like a last drive.
Tyler Johnson?
It might have been, yeah. Then they win in overtime against Fresno State. All right, so South Dakota, so 2-0, South Dakota State, last second touchdown, Fresno State, overtime. Georgia Southern wins by a game-winning field goal. So
Fresno team, by the way.
So we're looking at three games here. They played no one, and they struggled in every single game.
That's fine.
They beat a pretty bad Purdue team on the road. Sure. We'll live with it. And then that's
killed them, didn't they?
No, they won 38-31.
Okay. Well, they killed Illinois the next week. I know that.
They killed Illinois. Nice. Congrats. You killed Illinois. So
that Illinois team
versus Kansas's schedule. It's just like I'm just trying to disprove the fact that like
that's fine.
Ranked, okay. Tennessee Tech, I get it. West Virginia, like I would argue West Virginia is
really bad.
They're bad, but like they're better than the first 3 teams that Minnesota played that year.
Fair.
Houston, bad, but they didn't struggle, and they're probably better than Georgia Southern.
Houston is
2019, but they're probably better than 2019 Georgia Southern.
That may be true, but that also was Kansas's second best win.
All right, Duke. They won that game.
Yeah, that's Kansas's second best win, actually.
Yeah, and then Iowa State. They beat the Golden.
Who's also bad.
Campbell.
Who's also bad.
But are they worse than Fresno State or South Dakota State?
By the way, you just read me that schedule. None of those teams are better than 2019 Illinois, and Minnesota beat that team by 20 plus.
But
my argument
played 4 Power 5 teams.
My argument here isn't that Minnesota should have been ranked in 2019. My argument is that Kansas shouldn't be.
But like, why shouldn't they be ranked?
Well,
they're undefeated.
The resume isn't as good as everyone says it is. They're getting a lot of credit for beating a West Virginia team that isn't good, a Houston team that isn't good, and an Iowa State team that isn't good.
But you can't control your schedule. You can only control how you play.
That's fine.
They played well against these teams.
No, they
They
didn't.
won all their games. They won all their games. They
That
won all
isn't
of their
like the end
games.
all be all.
I mean, it is. Like if the season ended
Coastal
today,
Carolinas, Coastal's won all their games. Put them in the top 10, guys.
I mean, maybe I will. Like if the season ended
By the
today,
way, Coastal beat Kansas last year.
last year, come on, we're talking about the season, man. If the season ended today, I would be okay with awarding Kansas the national championship.
I would be okay with not doing anything about Kansas. I was trying to think of something. I miserably failed.
But here's my question: like, why can't you just be okay with Kansas playing a ranked matchup against TCU, and then if they lose,
and getting
it's
blown
fine.
out, and they're back out of the rankings, and everyone's
It's
happy.
fine.
I'm very okay with
Like, why
that.
do you have to hate on Kansas that much? Like,
Because they went from 26 to 19 after having 213 total yards of offense.
also, if you want to talk about last year, Kansas,
You know how many
can we not
first downs
ignore the fact? Can we not ignore the fact that they beat your beloved Texas Longhorns?
last year?
Yeah.
That was last year. We're not talking about last year.
But you were talking about last year. You were talking about last year.
Yeah, but you said we're not, so now we're not.
Oh
Kansas had 213 total yards of offense. They gained 10 first downs this past week against Iowa State.
That's Kansas football. That's the way they play.
West Virginia is freaking terrible, right? Terrible. They give up 511 yards to them.
That's the way they play football. That's the way Kansas plays.
Houston, freaking terrible. Give up 450 yards to them. They were outgained in all three of those games I just listed.
That's the way Kansas plays football.
Hold on, I want to see if this. Okay, so they weren't outgained against Duke, but they still give up 460 yards.
Listen, man,
TCU's gonna kill these guys.
they're not. I think Kansas might win.
They're going to hammer these guys.
I think Kansas might win.
Here is my promise to the American people: if Kansas wins, I will rank them. I'm not saying how high, but I will rank them.
Here's my promise to the American people: if Kansas wins, I will rank them in my top 15.
Illinois, Maryland, both better than Kansas. Syracuse, better than Kansas.
By the way, I don't want to keep going back to my preseason rankings, or my preseason previews, but I did say Kansas in the over 2.5 wins. Like, I think that was pretty much a lock that we all agreed on. So very, very happy that this is the way it happened. So anyways, Lance Leipold is gonna go to a bowl this season, whether you like it or not.
He's gonna go to a bowl and then he's gonna head straight to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Like immediately. Like he's gonna be like the Red Box Bowl, and they're immediately gonna send him to Lincoln.
Will he coach a will he even coach the bowl for them? Like,
dude, you have to coach the bowl.
Why?
What? He's like a Division III Wisconsin Whitewater.
If Nebraska's paying you $5 million a year, you do not have to coach the bowl.
And what's the reason you get that job? Because of what you did at that.
Because of your performance at Wisconsin Whitewater.
It's not. I'll tell you that much. It's not that. It's
by the way, do you think Kansas is going to at least win one more game, right?
They're going to win a game, yeah.
You don't think they're winning this week, though? You said they have a chance, but they're not winning this week, probably, right?
I mean, like, I would think they're going to win this week. I would like to think they're going to win this week.
Kansas is going to. By the way, Kansas is 5-0. They will have to win a game as an underdog to make a bowl.
Oh, but they play Texas, so like we know how that goes.
Yeah, that's okay. Texas, by the way, according to the FBI, has an 80.5% chance to win that game. So
like Kansas kind of owns Texas.
Maybe Texas will walk in there with the Big 12 championship appearance already in hand, and maybe they overlook them.
And then Kansas wins. Come on, man.
Maybe they overlook them.
Kansas was beating Texas since before Kansas was winning games.
Is Kansas's best chance to get their 6th win Oklahoma next week?
No, it's probably at Tech.
I don't know, dude. Tech's frisky, but you're probably right.
It's probably at Tech.
You're probably right. The schedule's brutal. Like they'll probably finish 6-6.
Dude, I could see some craziness at like the Apple Cup with
what if they beat your beloved Baylor Bears?
I would go into like hiding.
No. By the way, I think the word you're looking for is, or the term you're looking for is the Sunflower Showdown. I believe that's what.
The Sunflower Showdown. What the Apple Cups? That's Washington Wazoo, right?
Kansas State's not overlooking that game, though. By the way, actually they might, because Kansas will be 5-6 at that point.
No, dude. You think Kansas gonna lose 6 games in a row after starting 5-0?
They're gonna be an underdog in every single one. Why not?
Oh my god. I think we've had enough. I think this has been a really fun episode.
Probably
The
the best
college
one we've done by
season,
far.
the season's really heating up. I'm very excited to see how this goes. And like, listen,
Uh-huh.
I'm willing to make a little bit of a bet. Okay.
Okay,
About this Kansas TCU type thing. What's the line at right now for this game?
7.
7 TCU.
I'll bet you right now that TCU covers.
Okay, I'll bet Kansas Kansas
Minus
+7.
7.
Deal.
God, we'll
Nice.
revisit this next week. How much? $5?
Let's put $5 on it. Yeah.
Deal.
But if Kansas wins the game, you have to put them in your top 15 of your rankings.
By the way, I am not watching a second of that game, and it's not because I'm watching something else. I'm actually calling the Mizzou Florida game this weekend. So
Nice. So
this
on the lookout for
loaded
that.
morning slate. By the way, I saw a theory, and I wanted to get your opinion on it real quick before we left.
Yeah.
Big Noon, right, is now going to Michigan is now going to a Michigan game for the 4th straight week.
4th. Yeah, it's gonna be 5th too after they go next week to Penn State.
Who do they play? Who do they play next week? Penn State.
Well, no, next week they play IU.
Well, yeah. This week they play IU. Next week,
And then Penn State is
and then
gonna
Michigan State, by the way, has a chance of being Big Noon as well. I know
It's
Ohio.
not. That's gonna be ESPN. That's gonna be that game.
I know Ohio State's Penn State's that week, but I think there's a chance. So Michigan is now going to play 4. They're going to go to Big Noon 4 times in a row for Michigan.
Yeah,
right.
We run Fox loves Michigan.
The theory that I saw is Big Noon keeps going to these Michigan games, so Urban Meyer can give a scouting report to Ryan Day.
Bro, honestly, I wouldn't put it past them. But
not at all.
As a fan, I love Big Noon because Joel Klatt is like my favorite as of right now. Is like I think the best in the business in terms of college football analysis. So, like Joel, if you're listening, bro, like.
Dude, I love Joel. Like he's. By the way, last year at the Big Ten Championship, we were sitting like right under the broadcast booth. We got his attention pregame, and he gave us like a little heart. Like it was funny. I have a picture of it on my phone. I love Joel. His podcast is great. The only thing him and I really disagree on are 2 things actually. One, the 12-team playoff, and he keeps complaining because Kansas wasn't ranked.
We need to have him on the pod. That's our goal.
If we can get Joel on the pod, that would be quite the feat. Let's work on Willie Taggart to start.
All right, we're gonna have to wrap it up. See you guys later in the week. Yeah, have a good week. Thanks for listening.